When was the last time someone said something to you and it stayed with you for days? Not because it was loud, not because it was flashy, but because it touched something deep inside you, something tender, something real. Words can do that, especially when they're spoken with intention, with authenticity, and with heart. You see, it's not always the grand gestures that make a woman fall. Sometimes it's the quiet moments. The way you look at her when she's not even trying. The words you choose when you could have stayed silent. The compliments that go beyond the surface and tell her, I see you. Not just the version the world sees, but the one she keeps hidden, the one craving to be known, to be valued, to be loved without pretense. This is not about cheesy pickup lines. This is about understanding the psychology behind what makes a woman feel truly seen. Compliments that don't just flatter her beauty, but speak to her soul. Compliments that make her feel safe, understood, and unforgettable. And today, we're going there. Not just to learn how to say nice things, but to uncover the power of words that reach beyond attraction, straight into connection. Because when you learn how to really speak to a woman's heart, everything changes. Let's begin. 1. You make people feel calm just by being around. There are people who walk into a room and instantly command attention through volume, presence, or physical beauty. But then there are others quiet, steady, almost invisible at first glance. And yet their presence is like the ocean at dawn, still, yet so powerful. Peaceful, yet impossible to ignore. That's the kind of woman we're talking about. That's the kind of compliment that reaches into the depths of her being when you say, you make people feel calm just by being around. You see, we live in a noisy world. A world where everyone is shouting to be heard, where chaos is the norm and stillness is rare. When a woman carries calmness within her, it's not by accident. It's often born from pain, growth, maturity, and a quiet kind of strength the world rarely applauds. And yet, that calmness is magnetic. It makes her unforgettable in a way that no makeup, no outfit, no Instagram filter ever could. She becomes the safe harbor in the middle of storms others don't even realize they're sailing through. When you tell a woman that she brings calm into your world, you're not just complimenting her behavior. You're recognizing her soul. You're saying, your energy heals me. That's what you're really saying. Because calm people don't just exist. They soothe. They listen without rushing. They sit with your silence. They don't need to outshine you. They hold space for you to shine. And when a man sees that in a woman, not for what it does for him, but for what it says about her, everything changes. This kind of compliment isn't just romantic, it's rare. Because women are used to hearing, you're beautiful, or I like your smile. And sure, those words are nice, but they're surface. They speak to what anyone can see. When you say, you make people feel calm just by being around, you're telling her you notice what most people overlook. You're telling her she matters even in her quietest moments. You're telling her she doesn't need to perform to be seen. She is enough, even in stillness, especially in stillness. Many women walk through life suppressing their softness. They've been told it makes them weak. They've been told to be louder, tougher, more aggressive, to match the pace of the world. So when you pause, look her in the eyes, and say those words, it's not just a compliment, it's permission. Permission to be who she really is. Permission to breathe, to soften, to know that her calm isn't boring, it's breathtaking. And maybe you noticed it the first time she sat across from you, listening more than she spoke. Maybe it was the way she didn't rush to fill silence, the way she leaned in gently rather than trying to take over the room. Or maybe it was the way her presence made you feel safe. Like you didn't have to be perfect. Like you could let your guard down. That's the power of calm energy. It doesn't ask for attention, but it earns trust. Women like this are not always celebrated. They're often the ones who let others speak first. The ones who offer the last slice. The ones who don't need the spotlight to shine. And that's why your words matter. Because when you look at her and say, your presence brings calm, you're reminding her that her way of being is not only noticed, it's needed. You're showing her that grace and serenity still have value in a world that chases the loud and the bold. This compliment also goes deeper because it reveals something about you. It shows that you're not just looking for excitement or validation, you're looking for peace. And that too is magnetic. A woman who brings calm to others is often searching for someone who won't disturb her own. When you appreciate her calm, you become someone she can rest with, someone who won't take advantage of her gentleness, but protect it. She may not even realize how rare she is until she hears those words from you. Maybe she's always been the one people come to for comfort, but rarely gets any in return. Maybe she's always been the strong one, the calm one, the dependable one. And somewhere inside, she's wondered if anyone even sees her beyond the support she offers. When you speak this compliment, you become the person who not only sees but honors her. That's when the wall around her heart begins to lower. That's when connection begins. This kind of compliment doesn't have to be poetic. It doesn't need big words or a dramatic moment. It can be as simple as a sincere tone, a steady gaze, and a quiet truth. You could be walking with her after a long day and say, "I just want you to know you make everything feel less heavy. I don't know how you do it, but being around you just brings calm." And that moment will live in her memory far longer than any rehearsed pickup line ever could. Because in a world that constantly asks women to give more, do more, and be more, to hear that her very existence already brings peace, that's not just touching. That's unforgettable. That's the kind of compliment that sinks deep into her bones, the kind she'll think about on a quiet evening, long after the noise has faded. And when she remembers it, she'll remember you. Not just as someone who liked her, but as someone who saw her, too. I admire how deeply you care about the people you love. There's a kind of beauty that isn't visible at first glance. It doesn't wear designer clothes, doesn't walk with swagger, and doesn't light up a room the way loud laughter or flashy smiles do. It moves quietly, often unnoticed, but it is powerful. It's the kind of beauty found in a woman who cares, really cares, for the people she loves. It's in her late night check-ins, in the meals she cooks without being asked, in the way she remembers your smallest preferences and defends the people she believes in without hesitation. And when you look at her and say, "I admire how deeply you care about the people you love," you are reaching into the core of who she is. Most women carry their emotional labor in silence. They don't boast about how they hold their families together, how they soothe their friends' fears, how they sacrifice sleep, space, or even dreams, just to make sure the people around them feel safe, supported, and held. They do it because they care. Deeply. It's not something they perform. It's just who they are. So when a man takes the time to notice that, to really see it and name it, it feels like being seen for the very first time. In a world that praises external achievements, the quiet strength of emotional investment often goes unrecognized. She might be the one who senses when someone is hurting even before they say a word. She may be the first to offer comfort, not because it's expected, but because her heart can't bear to see someone suffer alone. Her empathy is not a strategy, it's a rhythm. And when you speak to that part of her with this compliment, you give her something incredibly rare emotional recognition. This kind of compliment isn't just about pointing out her kindness. It's about honoring her capacity to love in ways that are invisible to most. When you say, "I admire how deeply you care," you're saying you respect the emotional weight she carries. You're saying, "I know how hard it can be to give your heart so freely, and I see the quiet courage in that." That kind of admiration cuts through the superficial and lands in a place most compliments never reach, her soul. Because here's the truth. Women who love deeply often love with everything they have. They don't hold back. They nurture. They defend. They heal. But they're also the ones who are most easily taken for granted. The world gets used to their giving nature. People come to expect it, to lean on it, to assume it will always be there. Rarely does someone stop and say, "You love with a depth that humbles me." But when you do, it's like pouring water into a well that's been slowly running dry, and it's not always easy for her. To love like that takes risk. It means she's been hurt. It means she's stayed when others left, tried when others gave up, held on when it would have been easier to let go. Her love isn't born from naivety, it's born from strength. From choosing again and again to lead with heart even when it hurts. And your words, this compliment, acknowledges that strength in a way that's tender and intimate. It might be the way she talks about her mother, her younger sibling, her best friend who's been through too much. Maybe it's the way she lights up when she talks about the people she loves, the sparkle in her eyes, the protective tone in her voice. Or maybe it's in how she checks in on people who never check in on her, how she remembers birthdays, comforts those who never comfort her, and somehow still keeps giving. That's not just love. That's bravery. Telling a woman you admire how deeply she cares doesn't just make her feel valued. It creates a space for her to trust you. Because for a woman like that, love is sacred. And when she hears that someone else notices not just that she loves, but how she loves, it tells her that she's safe to keep being herself. That she doesn't have to harden or pretend she doesn't feel everything so deeply just to protect herself. There's something intimate in admiring someone's heart. It's not flashy, it's not loud, but it's real. It's the kind of compliment she'll remember on nights when she feels drained from giving too much. It will echo in her heart when she wonders if her tenderness is a weakness. It will remind her that someone out there saw her compassion as a strength, not something to exploit, but something to cherish. You might never fully know the battles she's fought, the relationships she's saved, the tears she's wiped from her own face in silence. But when you tell her you admire her depth of care, she'll feel understood, not because you've lived her story, but because you took the time to listen to it in her tone, her actions, her eyes. That's how deep this compliment reaches. And what's more powerful is that it tells her what kind of man you are. A man who notices softness, a man who values emotional intelligence, a man who sees beyond the surface and leans into the kind of love that transforms, rather than just impresses. When you speak those words, she doesn't just feel complimented, she feels honored. So the next time she's telling a story about something she did for someone she cares about, stop. Look at her and say it. Let it land. I admire how deeply you care about the people you love. Watch what it does. Watch how her shoulders drop. Watch how her eyes soften. Watch how her breath catches just a little, because no one ever put it into words quite like that. And in that moment, she'll know, this man sees me, not for what I look like, not for what I give him, but for who I truly am. And that is where love begins. 3. There's something magical about how you see the world. Some people look at the world and see facts. Others look and see flaws. But then there are those rare souls who gaze out and somehow find beauty in broken places, light in the cracks, and meaning in moments most of us would walk past. When you meet a woman like that, it's impossible not to notice her perspective. It's not just optimistic, it's enchanted. And when you tell her there's something magical about how you see the world, you're not just complimenting her thoughts. You're honoring the very lens through which her heart interprets life. This kind of woman might find joy in small things, the way morning light hits a window pane, the way strangers smile at each other in passing, the way raindrops dance on sidewalks. She might pause to admire the sound of laughter in a crowded room or notice the way a child clutches their mother's hand. While others rush, she lingers. While others scroll, she listens. There's a softness in her eyes, not because she's naive, but because she chooses to look deeper. And in today's world, that's nothing short of magic. When you tell her that you're drawn to how she sees things, she feels something rare. Not that you like her for how she looks, not even for how she acts, but for how she thinks. That's intimacy on another level. You're telling her that her view of life, with all its color and wonder and wild sincerity, doesn't just impress you, it moves you. And that kind of recognition, that builds connection faster than any perfect date or clever conversation ever could, because women who see the world through a magical lens often carry hearts that have been broken and rebuilt with purpose. They've faced pain, disappointment, loneliness, and somehow emerged with gratitude, not bitterness. They've trained their eyes to seek beauty, not because the world is always beautiful, but because they've chosen to make it so. Their perspective is not accidental, it's deliberate. So when you name it, when you say, there's something magical about how you see the world, what you're really saying is, I see the way your heart has shaped your vision, and it inspires me. Because she might not even realize what she brings into a room. Maybe she thinks everyone notices what she notices, but the truth is, most don't. Most people walk through life seeing only the obvious. She sees the invisible. She sees kindness where others see weakness. She sees potential where others see failure. She believes in second chances. She believes in love that shows up quietly. She sees the world not as it is, but as it could be, and that belief is powerful. When you acknowledge that part of her, you give her permission to keep believing, because even the most hopeful people have moments of doubt. Even the most magical souls have days when the world feels heavy and dark. But your words, spoken with sincerity, become a lantern. They say, keep seeing it the way you do. Your vision matters. And that kind of compliment, it lasts. It stays with her. She might recall it while walking alone, smiling to herself as she sees a sunset and remembers your voice saying she's magical. She might think of it when others question why she cares so deeply, dreams so wildly, trusts so easily. Your words become a quiet defense, a gentle reminder that someone out there gets it. Someone out there sees her not just as a person, but as a perspective, a worldview, a light. In that one sentence, you're also showing her the kind of man you are. A man who doesn't just look, he observes. A man who values substance over spectacle, who listens to the layers beneath the words. A man who is drawn not only to what's obvious, but to what's true. And that speaks louder than 100 compliments on her beauty ever could. When you admire how she sees the world, you're also saying you want to see more of it with her. You're saying, let me in on your magic. Let me see the colors you see, feel the things you feel, explore the depths you dive into when everyone else stays at the surface. And trust me, that is romantic. That kind of compliment opens her heart because it invites her to share her inner world, not just her presence. Because for a woman like that, her perspective is not just what she sees, it's who she is. To love how she sees the world is to love her essence. And when you say it aloud, it's like you're telling her, don't ever change. The way you see things is a gift to this world, and to me. That's the kind of sentiment that makes her fall. Not for your charm, but for your awareness. Not for your words alone, but for the depth behind them. And that's where real connection is born. 4. The way your mind works is fascinating. There's a hidden thrill in being seen not just for your face, not just for the way you smile or the softness in your voice, but for the electricity behind your thoughts. In a world where many women are complimented for their appearance, where their worth is so often tied to how they dress or the way they carry themselves, few things strike as deeply as being told. The way your mind works is fascinating. Because when you say that to a woman, you're not just noticing her, you're witnessing her. You're telling her, I'm drawn to the way you think, the way you process, the way your brain dances through ideas and lands on truths I never even thought of. And that kind of compliment, it touches a part of her that's rarely touched. It celebrates the unseen parts, the things she doesn't show off, but quietly lives with. Her curiosity, her thoughtfulness, the way she connects dots that most people overlook, the way she can analyze something with depth one moment and then dream with wild imagination the next. Maybe it's how she always knows just the right question to ask, or how she finds metaphors in places you never imagined. Maybe it's how she can recall the smallest details from a story you told 3 weeks ago, or how her eyes light up when she's talking about something she loves learning. That's not just intelligence, it's wonder. It's creativity. It's life happening in her mind, and when you take the time to honor it, she feels profoundly valued. Too often, people don't notice the way a woman's thoughts flow. They don't ask what she believes about the world or what ideas keep her up at night. But the woman who is constantly thinking, growing, questioning, she notices when someone does. She notices when a man looks at her and isn't just waiting for his turn to talk, but is actually listening, intrigued by how she got from point A to point B. When you say, the way your mind works is fascinating, you're telling her that her thinking matters. That her brain, with all its quirks and brilliance and emotion and logic, is a place you want to sit with for a while. It's not just a compliment, it's an invitation. It tells her she can speak freely without needing to translate or simplify. It tells her she can bring up the weird theories, the abstract dreams, the late-night thoughts that feel too big for the world to hold. And you'll be there, not just nodding, but participating, exploring, learning from her. That kind of presence, that kind of attentiveness makes her feel heard in ways few experiences do. And maybe she doesn't hear it enough. Maybe people get caught up in how put together she is. Maybe they admire her beauty, but never ask her opinion. Maybe she's used to holding back her insights because they've been dismissed before. But your words, the way your mind works, is fascinating. They unlock something. They give her permission to show the full landscape of her thoughts without fear of being too much, too intense, too opinionated. She starts to realize she doesn't have to edit herself with you, that she can ramble about the book she just read or the theory she has about human behavior or that random documentary she watched at 2 a.m. and you'll get it. Not only will you get it, you'll love that part of her, because the truth is her mind is a world. And you just handed her a passport that says, take me there. There's also a level of intimacy in that compliment that's unlike anything else. You're not just commenting on something she has, like pretty hair or nice style. You're engaging with something she is. Her mind is her essence. It's shaped by her past, by the books she's read, by her mistakes, by the people who've inspired her, by the moments she's sat in silence just thinking. When you admire her mind, you're admiring her story, her growth, her resilience, her perspective. And in a world that often rushes past those things, that kind of admiration is unforgettable. Because at the end of the day, women, just like men, want to be seen in their fullness. And her mind is a massive, dazzling part of that fullness. She wants to feel like she can bring her whole self into the room, Not just the polished parts, not just the agreeable ones, but the messy, curious, wildly intelligent, ever-evolving parts. And when you look at her and genuinely say, the way your mind works is fascinating, she doesn't just feel special, she feels free. Free to speak, free to think, free to trust. And trust, that's the seed from which love grows, not the shallow kind, the real kind, the lasting kind, the kind that roots itself in connection far deeper than appearance, because it blooms from the inside out. 5. You make everything feel so calm when you're around. There's a kind of magic that doesn't come with fireworks, loud laughter, or grand entrances. It comes in silence, in stillness, in the quiet presence of someone who simply makes everything feel better just by being there. And when you look at a woman and say, "You make everything feel so calm when you're around," you're not just pointing out a trait, you're honoring a gift. Because in a world that's constantly chaotic, fast-paced, and overwhelming, the presence of calm is not just rare, it's sacred. You're telling her that her energy speaks louder than her words, that her presence is enough to lower your guard, soften your heart, and remind you that peace still exists, even if only in the radius of where she stands. And for a woman who has carried storms inside her, who has had to be strong when no one else showed up, this compliment touches a place so deep it can bring tears to her eyes. Because maybe no one has ever told her before that the gentle way she carries herself has value. That being calm, steady, and grounding isn't just nice, it's powerful. Some women don't even realize how much their energy affects the people around them. Maybe she's used to being the one who holds things together, the one who listens without judgment, the one whose hugs feel like home, whose voice somehow slows your breathing, whose smile brings a moment of stillness in a noisy room. She doesn't do these things to be impressive. She does them because it's who she is. It's how she survives. And when you say, "You make everything feel so calm when you're around," you're letting her know you see it, you feel it, and it matters to you. This kind of woman doesn't need to control the room to own it. Her power doesn't come from dominating, but from balancing. From the way she listens before speaking. From how she sits beside someone in pain without needing to fix it, just offering her warmth and quiet understanding. From the way she looks into your eyes and really sees you, without rushing to respond or judge. That presence, so many people long for it. And when you name it out loud, it feels like being recognized for a role she didn't even know she was playing. There's something beautiful about the way calm people make you feel like you don't have to perform. You don't have to impress them. You can just be. You can exhale. And if she brings that out in you, telling her so can build a bridge that few words ever could. Because she may not know that the way she makes people feel safe is one of the most attractive, cherished things about her. She may have gone through life thinking her softness was something to hide, something too quiet to be admired. But when you say she brings calm, you're telling her she brings safety, balance, healing. Women who carry calm often do so because they've known chaos. Maybe she grew up in a home where peace was rare, so she learned to create it. Maybe she's walked through trauma and heartbreak and learned that the only way to keep breathing was to become her own sanctuary. Maybe she's been the peace in other people's storms for so long, she forgot she is the calm. And when you reflect that back to her, when your words say, "I feel grounded when you're near," it's like water on dry soil. It nourishes her soul in ways she can't explain. What makes this compliment even more powerful is that it has nothing to do with her appearance, her achievements, or anything she tries to do. It's not about performance, it's about presence. It tells her that who she naturally is brings relief to others. That being herself is enough to make a room feel lighter. That she doesn't have to be loud or bold or flashy to be unforgettable. Her calm is what stays with you long after she's left the room. Her calm is what you crave when your world spins too fast. And here's the secret. When a woman realizes that her presence is peace, she blooms. Not because she needed your validation, but because your words reminded her of what's always been inside. Your compliment becomes a mirror, showing her the quiet strength she offers the world. It tells her you don't go unnoticed. The stillness you bring isn't just nice, it's deeply needed. So many women are used to being praised for being strong, busy, productive, or beautiful. But being told, "You make everything feel so calm," speaks to a different part of her. It speaks to her essence. To the part of her that wants to be a safe place, not just for others, but for herself. And when you notice that, when you tell her that her presence itself feels like peace, she doesn't just feel seen, she feels cherished. She realizes that maybe, it just maybe, being soft isn't weakness. It's a kind of strength that holds the whole world together. 6. You see beauty in things most people ignore. There's something breathtaking about a woman who can pause in the middle of a noisy moment and notice a petal on the ground, the faded corners of a photo, or the way light moves through a window pane. She isn't rushing. She isn't trying to prove anything. She just sees, in a way most people don't. And when you look at her and say, you see beauty in things most people ignore, you're not just complimenting her vision. You're acknowledging her soul. You're letting her know that her way of seeing the world isn't just different. It's deeply, quietly extraordinary. This kind of compliment doesn't flatter the surface. It reaches into the heart of who she is, because maybe she's always been that girl, the one who finds poetry in street corners, who listens to old songs and tears up at a line most people miss, who feels something sacred in cracked walls and autumn skies. Maybe she's the one who notices when someone's voice falters, or when a stranger's eyes look tired, or when a moment feels like it's holding something more than words. And she doesn't do it for attention. She does it because her spirit is built to feel, built to observe, built to care. In a world that moves fast, she slows down. In a society that chases big, loud, shiny things, she finds joy in the subtle, the forgotten, the overlooked. And that is rare. That is beautiful. That is a kind of wisdom you don't often see, and even more rarely appreciate. So when you say to her, you see beauty in things most people ignore, you're telling her that her presence doesn't just exist. It enriches. You're saying that her perception adds color to the world, that her sensitivity is not a flaw. It's a gift. For a woman who may have been told she's too emotional, too sentimental, too soft, these words can heal in ways silence never could. They tell her she doesn't have to harden. She doesn't have to shrink her wonder or hide her awe. That the way she finds beauty in the mundane is something you notice and value. That you don't need her to be numb to the world like everyone else. In fact, you admire her because she's not. Maybe she sees beauty in people others write off. Maybe she loves listening to stories that have no punchline, but hold weight in every pause. Maybe she loves old things, old books, old houses, old voices, because they carry history and heart. Or maybe it's the way she lights up when talking about the stars, or broken hearts, or how rain smells when it first hits dry ground. The things she sees are things others pass by. But you stopped. You saw her seeing. And that creates a connection unlike any other. It's a reminder that attraction isn't always about glamour or noise. Sometimes it's about the woman who sees a single dandelion pushing through concrete and says, that's strength. Sometimes it's the woman who can find 10 different colors in the sky at dusk, or who notices how a person's laugh reveals their wounds. When you compliment her vision, you're not just noticing what she sees, you're revealing what you see in her. You're telling her your heart makes the world feel more alive, more meaningful, more worth paying attention to. What's more powerful than that? What tells a woman more clearly that she matters than letting her know that her view of the world shifts yours? That her presence makes you more awake to life itself. She might not even realize she's doing it. She might think her sensitivity goes unseen, that her reflections get lost in the noise, that her quiet love for the unnoticed is something she has to tuck away. But when you tell her you see her seeing, you free her. You validate her lens. You honor the soft parts of her that the world tries to turn hard. And this kind of noticing builds deep emotional intimacy. Because it means you're not just looking at her, you're learning from her. She's teaching you how to be more present, how to care more deeply, how to find wonder in simplicity. And when you reflect that back, when you say, you see beauty in things most people ignore, you're saying, you make my world richer just by being in it. That one sentence, it's not just a compliment, it's a mirror, it's a window, it's a doorway into a kind of love that isn't about surface thrills, but about soul-level recognition. And when a woman feels that, when she knows that her way of being is not just accepted but adored, she opens up in ways you never imagined, because now she knows she's safe to keep seeing, to keep feeling, to keep loving out loud, knowing that you see her not just for how she looks, but for how her heart breathes life into every little corner of the world. 7. You don't try to be impressive, and that's what makes you unforgettable. You make me want to be a better man? It's not just a compliment, it's a revelation. A whispered truth that often sits unspoken in the hearts of men who have been changed not by control, demands, or expectations, but by love that inspires. When a man says this to a woman, what he's really saying is, you awaken something in me I didn't know was sleeping. You stir the parts of me I had forgotten to nurture. You make growth feel like something I want, not something I have to do. And for the woman who hears it, Those words go deeper than any surface praise ever could, because what it means is that who she is, just by being herself, is an invitation to rise, to evolve, to become more thoughtful, more patient, more whole. She didn't lecture him. She didn't shame him. She didn't force change. She simply showed up in her truth, in her elegance, in her quiet fire, and it made him want to step up. That's the kind of impact that's rare and powerful and unforgettable. There's something unbelievably magnetic about a woman whose energy makes you reflect on the man you are and the man you could be. It's not about perfection. It's about presence. Her presence. It's the way she walks with purpose, how she treats people with warmth, how her laughter makes you feel lighter, and how her eyes hold stories you want to be worthy of. It's her standards, not in what she demands, but in how she lives, that challenge you. Her boundaries don't push you away, they call you forward. Her compassion doesn't coddle you, it awakens you. Her grace doesn't excuse your faults, it motivates you to grow through them. And when she looks at you with trust, when she believes in your potential even when you haven't yet fully stepped into it, you begin to wonder, what would it look like to actually become the man she sees in me? That question alone can change your entire life. Because now, love isn't a comfort zone, it's a launch pad. It doesn't just feel good, it makes you better. She doesn't even need to say much. Sometimes it's the way she listens without interrupting, how she holds silence instead of filling it with noise. Or maybe it's the way she loves herself unapologetically, showing you that growth doesn't have to come from pain. It can come from respect. Her strength isn't loud, but it's unshakable. And something about that steadiness in her makes you want to be more grounded too. When you tell a woman, "You make me want to be a better man," you're not just giving her credit. You're honoring her influence. You're letting her know that her light didn't just touch you. It transformed you. And that kind of change, it doesn't come from pressure. It comes from admiration. It comes from being in the presence of someone whose values align so deeply with your own higher self that not evolving feels like wasting a miracle. This compliment also tells her that she's not just inspiring, she's impactful. That her way of showing up in the world has ripple effects. That her love isn't invisible. That her presence helps shape a better future. Not just for you, but for everyone around you. It affirms the truth that women don't need to change a man. They need to be seen for how they inspire the change already waiting inside him. Sometimes, the most powerful thing a woman can do is be fully, boldly, courageously herself. And when that selfhood becomes a mirror that reflects your better nature, it's a gift. A gift you want to protect, nurture, and live up to. Saying, "You make me want to be a better man," is the language of reverence, of humility, of love that's rooted not in possession, but in transformation. She doesn't have to fix you. She doesn't have to save you. All she has to do is keep being the kind of woman who reminds you that goodness exists, that kindness is strength, and that softness can lead to strength, not weakness. And as you watch her live with intention, with empathy, with depth, you realize you don't want to remain who you were before she walked into your life. This compliment doesn't just make her heart swell, it makes her feel seen. Not for her beauty or her body or her charm, but for her influence. For the invisible ways she moves through the world and shifts people's hearts without even knowing it. And when you acknowledge that, when you say those words and mean them, she feels like more than loved. She feels respected, admired, valued. Because in the end, what a woman wants isn't just romance. It's reverence. She wants to know that who she is has left a mark, that her essence is worth evolving for. And when you say, "You make me want to be a better man," you're giving her a truth that lingers far beyond the moment.